Well, this regime is a shit show. Keone, what were they thinking?
Thinking? You got to stop accusing this administration about thinking.
The amount of energy that it takes to be a racist is insane.
It's too easy, Stacey. The only thing the internet asks you to be most times is don't be homophobic, don't be sexist, don't be racist. How hard is that?
Apparently they can't handle it.
Stacey, you got to pull, because I don't know what the hell Trump is doing. Pull a card, because we haven't done that yet. And it's got to be the fool. It's going to be the fool. It has to be the fool.
Oh my God! Who's the psychic now? Cello all, Stacey the Black Feather Intuitive, and welcome to another episode of Dear Democracy. And as luck would have it, Keone and I were going to spar in our usual way and talk a little trash politics. And he had an emergency situation. He's okay. His roommate had an injury, and so he, at the last minute, had to run and help out. So you guys are stuck with solely me. Please be kind. Please be patient. As you can see, I already had a technical glitch. You know, this is the thing. This is why I like doing collaborations with cohorts, because I'm in the clouds half the time, and then I have to like drop down and actually do technical 3D stuff. And, you know, it's a disaster. Just a disaster. But anyway, he sent me some talking points today, and I'm going to do my best. I didn't fully kind of understand what the questions are, but we're going to just roll with it. So in this episode of Dear Democracy, he wanted to explore 3 different topics that really connect to what's kind of going on right now. The first one is political vulgarity on the rise. Public political language continues becoming more confrontational, more personal, and openly vulgar. Is this honesty or the erosion of civic discourse? You know, I mean, ever since Orange Cheeto had got involved in politics in the first place, I feel that he basically gave license for all of the misogynists and racists out there and pedos to come out. You know, it's like the cockroaches that stay in the dark. Well, now they're coming out into the light because they feel empowered. They feel emboldened. You know, if the leader of the country is saying these things, that's their reward. You know, he's robbing them blind, you know, as well as the rest of us. But their reward is that they get to be shitty humans. So when we talk about public political language, part of that also I feel is social media and, you know, the necessity of and the rise of people now having a voice, people now being able to speak their truth from their own particular platform. You no longer have to, you know, fight for a book deal. You no longer have to find, you know, a job as a commentator. You can create your own channel. And, you know, if people like you and you take off and you know, play the algorithm game, you know, you can really make something of yourself. And so, you know, I feel that you know, there's freedom in, I actually personally now, I mean, I love dropping a good F-bomb. You guys know that. But I personally really enjoy watching YouTube commentators and getting my news from YouTube without it being bleeped out and edited. It's real. It's raw. It's the way that we speak out in the world. It's the way the world is. So now, do I feel that, you know, public political violence is appropriate? Hell no. But stopping people from expressing themselves and just calling it like they see it, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If you have a hard time with vulgarity, if you have a hard time with swearing, if you have a hard time with, curse words and direct languaging, there are plenty of people out there that you can follow that don't do that, right? So again, that's what we're all fighting for here with democracy, is freedom of speech, freedom to allow people to be whoever the fark they want to be. If you don't like what it is that I have to say, don't watch me, don't follow me. If you love what I have to say, like me and follow me. I mean, it's as simple as that. We all have the freedom to be able to choose what type of content we wish to engage in. And so, again, I do not support political violence of any kind. Political vulgarity, I mean, I think it really expresses how people feel. Now, you talk about sort of the Candace Owens and the Tucker Carlsons, and, I really do feel that right-wing media, there's a game, there's a racket to that. I don't even know how many of those individuals actually really, truly, feel all the things that they feel. Some of them absolutely have drunk the Kool-Aid. But some of them, it's a ploy, it's a game, it's a way of making money. It's a grift, I mean, isn't that what the right-wing media is all about these days? It's supporting the grifters. So, is it honesty or the erosion of civic discourse? Well, if you're doing it strictly for clicks and money, it's an erosion of civic discourse. Otherwise, I would say to you, it's an expression of the way we are today. We as a people have evolved or devolved, depending on how you want to look at it. And people feel some type of way. And sometimes there's a diplomatic way to put something. Absolutely. Read the room, know your environment, know your audience so that you can, I want to say, adapt accordingly. But at the end of the day, people feel what they feel. And quite frankly, I mean, there are studies out there that say that people who swear are more intelligent than people who don't. And since I'm a swearer, I'm going to own that. I'm going to say, yes, I'll take that particular bit of scientific evidence to justify my foul mouth from time to time, right? I also felt like when I was reading this, I wanted to talk a little bit about MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene. And, she very famously has been a supporter of Orange Cheeto Head, for a really long time. And if you've been following politics at all prior to this latest election, you will know that MTG has been one of the staunchest need to put the cuckoo back in the clock senators or congressmen. I can't remember if she's a congressperson or a senator. I think she was a congressperson. But I mean, like, crazy, off the rails, screaming, yelling, saying the most ridiculous, outlandish things. I mean, she fits right into the MAGA movement, right? Well, now suddenly, because she was ostracized by Dear Leader because she chose to grow a spine and to, speak for the Epstein survivors. And, hats off to her. I don't think that her motives are pure, but hats off to her that she's one of few women in the Republican and MAGA party who actually stood up for what is right. So, hats off to her about that. But since that has happened, she has left, I think she was Congress. She has left Congress. And if you see any interviews with her at all, she has toned down her appearance. She has even changed the way that she speaks, the way that she says certain words. She's even toned down her accent. And I do feel that there is an ulterior motive to all of this. And so I thought, you know what, maybe that's a question that we can ask and explore, because she has been a big part of civic discourse. And I want to say the erosion of that civic discourse. The way that she handled herself in Congress is, quite frankly, despicable. There's one thing when you're dropping an F-bomb to, prove a point. There's another thing when you are, calling out, just saying racist things and, saying things that just are completely nonsensical, like completely and utterly nonsensical, and doing it in such a histrionic way. That shit just doesn't fly. So the question that I wanted to ask here is, what is her ulterior motive? Five of Shadow. So this is the Five of Cups. This is typically a card of grief, a card of loss, a card of being in the shadows, understanding that your original plan is no more. And that as you move forward, you have to look for something new and different. Otherwise, you're going to get completely swallowed up by your grief, your loss. And in her case, that 5 energy, conflict, she thrived in conflict. I want to say I feel that she still thrives in conflict. And, just because she has supported the Epstein survivors does not mean that she suddenly now is a Democrat. If you've seen any of her interviews, she will tell you she's definitely not a Democrat. She's trying to create an America first. So I feel like, and we'll pull another card on it, but I feel like this 5 of Shadows is that she got activated when she suddenly was no longer a part of the team. And there was grief, there was loss for her in that, because she never thought in a million years that she would be the outcast. 6 of Shadow. I wish I had shuffled while you guys could have seen me. I literally shuffled it. So she is moving on to calmer shores. She's going to create calmer shores for herself. But I feel like she's moving on because she wants to create her own. And I don't mean Epstein Island. I mean, she just wants to create her own island. And I feel that her own island is her version of MAGA before it went off the rails. She's still very racist, very opportunistic, very much a grifter. I can't wait for the Dems to get back into power and to hold her accountable for all of the insider trading that she did in the first couple of months of 2025. These are things that people have to be held accountable for, and yeah, she's trying to change things up, and she's trying to be the sweet girl and the nice girl, and to, kind of come together in the middle. But at the end of the day, I feel that her agenda is really I wouldn't be surprised if she tries to run for president, if she creates her own movement, because I feel like that's ultimately what is happening. Is she going to be successful in that movement? In creating that movement? Oh, Wheel of Fortune. Interesting. So I am hearing luck is on her side with this, because there are enough defectors from the MAGA movement that are starting to kind of come out of the woodworks now, that are looking for a place to go. And these are hardcore, dyed-in-the-wool MAGAs that aren't ever going to vote Democrat, right? So they need a place to go. And I feel that she is going to provide that place to go. Now, what's interesting is we just see, it feels like one fish, right? We're seeing one fish. And I feel like that's how she's going to roll. She's not going to play nice with other people, with other groups. She's going to want to be the head cheese. She's going to want to be the head boss. And I do feel that energy coming. But it's interesting that we got the 5 of Shadows and the 10, the Wheel of Fortune. So, the 5 times 2 is 10, goes into 10, and 10 is new beginnings based on an already established foundation. So removing herself from the conflict that she created or helped to create, and she's building on that to create her own new path. And she does have some luck in relation to that. Okay, the second topic that Keone suggested is talking about these AI deepfake political ads. So artificial intelligence is now blurring the line between reality and fabrication. Deepfake ads and AI-generated messaging are raising serious concerns about manipulation and misinformation. He didn't really give me a full question on this, other than how dangerous are these AI deepfakes to democracy? I'm going to say to you, we've already passed that point, like one point of no return. We can't go backwards. A lot of people, I'm not saying all people in the MAGA movement are underintelligent. Do not misquote me. But there are a lot of people in the MAGA movement who are undereducated, who like to be told by someone else what to do, how to live, where to go. It's just simpler for them, rather than having to rationalize, rather than having to do a lot of critical thought. They just are used to being told what to do. And when we talk about these AI deepfake political ads, I do feel strongly that it is a problem, because you've got a group of people who aren't going to ask questions about what it is they're witnessing. And that's part of the reason why we're in the state that we're in right now, is that there are so many people on this planet, I should say in this country, but also on this planet, who don't know how to critically think. We could go into a whole topic of, nature versus nurture, how much of it is their fault, how much of it is society's fault. Regardless, the bottom line is we have a significant chunk of the population that behaves in that way, that does not choose to critically think. And so when you get these AI deep fakes, they're not going to bother to ask, is this real? Is this information real? Or is this something that somebody has made up? The more outlandish it's going to be, I feel like the more they're going to lean in and own it and say, yeah, this has got to be the truth. We've seen it already where the abortion issue was coming up. I remember watching Adam Mockler when he was going to all of the Trump rallies and interviewing people. And there was this one man, I remember it clear as day, that was talking about abortion, and he was convinced that Dems were killing babies through late-term abortions, like calling it a late-term abortion and killing babies after they were born, like making no freaking sense. Basically saying, oh yeah, Dems are killing babies, murdering babies in the hundreds of thousands on a daily basis. This just simply isn't true, but this man bought it hook, line, and sinker. He believed it wholeheartedly. That's an individual who's really scary. That's an individual who is going to believe in AI deepfake. If it leans into the narrative of what he's comfortable believing in, then he's going to buy it, regardless of how outlandish and unrealistic it actually is. So what is the question in all this? I would like to know why. I had something written down here about like, when will it stop? But tarot isn't really good at predicting timing. I guess what I want to know is, let's do it this way. The people who do not critically think, are we ever going to be able to help them? Are we ever going to be able to come to a happy medium? Come to some kind of an education? And I'm not talking about taking away your free will to believe what you want to believe. I'm talking about, are we ever going to be able to deprogram them so that they can then learn how to critically think and come up with whatever they want, whether they still believe that or whether they choose to believe something else? Are we ever going to get to that point? Interesting. Queen of Thunder, Queen of Swords energy. This is all a card of boundary. This is about deep critical thinking, but it is about putting structure and order around it. And what I keep hearing is the only way that this is going to change is with the newer generations coming up. And it is about going after our educational system to bring back civics, to make it mandatory, maybe even to make it mandatory to vote in this country. I had a thought when I was in the shower today. How can we encourage people, those voters who just come in to vote, and, I always vote Republican because my daddy always voted Republican, or my family's always voted Republican. I've never asked another question, right? I just vote Republican. What if we were to create a situation where there was a video? Now, of course, this requires non-bias news or commentators or a non-bias media, which we don't have right now. So this is kind of future forward, where with every candidate from, the potential presidents and vice presidents all the way down the ticket, you get a quick 1 or 2 minute little short that you get to watch, that you watch while you're waiting in line to vote, so that you see the pros and the cons to this individual. Here's what they stand for. Here are the scandals they've been involved in. Here's the latest scuttlebutt on this particular individual. And everyone has to watch the information so that they can then determine when they're voting, oh, wow, I didn't know that person was convicted of rape. I didn't explore it that far. Well, I'm against that. So now, maybe I need to vote for the other candidate, right? There have got to be ways that we can educate people. Yes, it starts with the school system, absolutely. But for those who, it's too late for the school, the school system has missed them, there have got to be other ways that we can do this. I mean, the media is not, in any position to do that right now, or at least the legacy media is not in any position to do that. If we were to get a neutral body that could put together some of these things that are easy to watch, simple to break down, where you get an idea of what each candidate stands for, I think that would serve us very, very well. Okay, now we are moving into one of my favorite topics is Cheeto Head's health condition. So it's very clear that, it's been clear for a really long time, at least to people like me. I knew before he was even elected into office this second time that something wasn't right with him from a health perspective. You could see it all over him. But you know what? They're going to try and bullshit us. They're going to try and, cover things up, whatever. The way that he speaks, you knew that there was something not right. Yes, he's a kooky man. He's a crazy man. Absolutely. But the things that he was saying takes it, up the notch. And of course, now we're seeing it up 17 notches where, it's insanity, the things that come out of his mouth. And it's even more insanity that people are actually following it and acting upon it. But that's a whole other thing. So questions surrounding the president's health. This past weekend, Memorial Day weekend, he was in the hospital for a third visit. He has gone to 3 different dentist appointments outside of the White House. That is that's a lot of, there's a lot of speculation around why that's happening, because he can get his dental stuff done in the White House as well. Why is he leaving and going somewhere else? We've seen the bruises on the hands. We've seen the cankles. He just looks awful. He looks like shit in his face. Yes, he's still doing his little orange thing, but I want to say there are times when he's not doing a lot of the orange thing, and that's when you really see what he has kind of devolved into. And he talks a lot about his parents lately, a lot about mother and father energy. And there's a political reader that I do follow on YouTube. He's wonderful, Scrying Out Loud. You want to check out Trevor at Scrying Out Loud. He's been talking for months, probably over a year now, about health issues, health concerns, and that in the last few months, he says when Trump starts talking about his mother, I'm feeling that we are nearing the end of his life cycle. Now, I do not wish anyone harm or ill will. I am not predicting anyone's transition from this mortal coil. I am just simply passing on information that I find very interesting. So some of the questions that I wanted to ask is, what is really going on with his health? Is this something that, like a cancer diagnosis that he's going through treatment and he can come out the other side of it? Or is this something a little more serious? I know there are a number of different issues going on. Interesting. We have the judgment card, folks. The judgment card. You can't make this shit up. So I do feel that he is coming to the end of his life cycle. So for those of you who aren't familiar with tarot, in tarot, we have the major arcana and the minor arcana. And the major arcana, we've got 22 cards that come up in the major arcana, and it's often referred to as the fool's journey. So you start off with a 0, the fool. That's the pure potential. That's the new leap of faith, the new journey that you're about to take. And then kind of like the hero's journey, if you're familiar with Joseph Campbell's work, it's the same kind of concept. Now, the fool takes its journey and goes through all of the different characteristics of each card to learn what it means to be in a human body, to learn what it means to be on your own, to learn what it means to be with others, to learn growth with others. And then you come out the end of the cycle. And this is the card right before the end of the cycle. And the judgment card is like, okay, you've come almost to the end of the road. You're at a choice point right now. Do you feel that you have learned the lesson that you needed to learn? Or do you need one more kick at the can before you are ready to move forward? And that is the choice that is being made here. And I feel like it's very fascinating to me that this judgment card, because the next card after this is the world card. You've arrived, sum total of everything you tried to achieve, and now the fool's journey starts all over again, right? It's the life, death, and rebirth cycle is what we're talking about. The judgment card is the angel calling the trumpet, calling out the person who is rising either from the ashes or being called to come out of the crypt. Are you ready for the next adventure, the next journey? Or are you ready to call it quits? Or do you want to go one more kick at the can? So I definitely feel when we're talking about what's really going on with his health, he's been given a diagnosis that is a life or death diagnosis. He has been given time. And anyone who has been given some kind of a terminal diagnosis, you know what it means, or you have a loved one that's gone through that. That's what he's going through. That is why he is so fixated on this stupid fucking ballroom bunker bullshit. Because he oscillates from knowing that he's not long for the mortal coil and being crazy in his head, thinking that he's 40 years younger and that he's going to live for fucking ever. So the judgment, he goes back and forth from knowing that the end is near and also trying to stop the end from coming. Judgment is also about discernment in many ways, discerning whether you are ready to move forward, whether you have what it takes to do what is required, or whether it's time to go back to the drawing board. And he does not have discernment of any kind right now, nor does he have anyone around him that can provide any level of discernment. And that's by design. Will he ever find out? Will we ever find out what they are hiding or what they are covering up around his health? This is going to be a big one. We're not going to find out, I don't think, until after he has, left the mortal coil, because they're going to keep a lot under wraps, because he's immune from prosecution, but no one else in his tribe is immune. And so I feel like they're going to do their damnedest to keep it covered up, to make sure that they don't hang for this kind of thing. I say that proverbially, that they don't hang for this. Oh my God, guys, I shit you not. I just said that, and the card is the hanged man, the hanged one. You cannot make this shit up. So what this says is, will we ever find out? Yes, but it's going to take us a while. We're not going to find out while he is still here. We will find out years later, and it'll be after a lot of investigation that happens, a lot of whistleblowers coming out of the woodwork, a lot of people who are going to try and rebrand themselves to try and weather the storm of being a part of this debacle that is this part of American history. And shame on them. And I would say use your discernment to determine, who you want to let off the hook and who you want to hold accountable. But the hanged man, you cannot make this shit up. It is a shift in perspective. It's also a limbo, a pause and breathe. Ooh, I also just heard that the life that he is currently living right now does feel a bit like he's in limbo. So he puts on a brave front. He tries to sort of present himself as the strong man, the strong one, because God forbid you show any kind of vulnerability or weakness. In his psychopathy, it makes sense that he couldn't do that. But really what's going on is he does feel like he is in animated suspension. He hates the fact that there are things he used to be able to do that he can't do anymore. Most of the time, he sits in addle confusion about where he is and what he's doing and what his purpose is. So in many ways, like we could call this, I'm not a religious person, but like in my Catholic upbringing, I went to a Catholic high school, and of course it's about purgatory. The hanged man feels like he's in purgatory. So purgatory is that space between life and death when, you're kind of in the messy middle. You're not living your life, but you're not quite dead yet. I'm not dead yet. And you have to still kind of see and witness and be sort of in the middle of all of that suffering, all of that feeling, pain and anger, but you don't have an ability to express it. You don't have an ability to shift it or change it. You're literally stuck. Another way to describe it would be Groundhog Day, the loop, doing the same thing over and over again. I don't know about you guys, but that is a hell on earth. And I'm not, trying to give him any kind of sympathy. Make no mistake. I have no compassion or sympathy for this man, aside from the fact that, he is a human being on this wild ride called life, the same way the rest of us are. But it stops right there. But I feel that he is in a hell of his own making. And even though he has a lot of people who fawn over him and blah, 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 there's not a single soul that actually gives a true shit about him. They do what they do because they're afraid of him, and they do what they do because of what they're getting out of it as a result. Can you imagine living that life? Can you imagine people only being around you, only taking care of you because of what you can give to them, what you can pay them? It's not any kind of life. In my opinion, it's not any kind of life. All right, guys, that is this episode's Dear Democracy for this week. Hopefully, you're going to get a little discourse and banter between Keone and I within the next couple of weeks. But, if it doesn't happen, I'm still here showing up, and hopefully you are finding some of this approach and this humor and some of this information comforting, something that you're getting to be able to laugh at and laugh with, because as I like to say on this show, if we're not laughing, we're crying, and we don't need that. So let's keep our energy and our frequency up. Let's laugh through the tears and keep the vision high of what we want to create on the other side of this nastiness, this nonsense and shenaniganery, on the other side of this bullshittery. All right, guys, we will see you next week. As I always like to say, take care and transform well.